Far beyond the safe trade routes, where most ships never dared to travel, a powerful alien fleet moved slowly through the darkness of space. The stars were fewer here. The silence felt deeper. Even the light seemed weaker, as if this region itself was warning them to turn back. Ahead of them was a line, not a physical wall, not a barrier you could touch, but every scanner, every map, every system marked it clearly: human territory, do not enter. The warning was old, very old. No one knew who placed it there first. Some believed it had existed for centuries. Others said it was even older than that. Most species did not question it. They saw the warning, and they stayed away, because those who ignored it never returned. No signals, no wreckage, no survivors, just silence. But this fleet was not like the others. This was the Xylar Dominion, a powerful empire known across the galaxy for its strength and conquest. They had defeated entire civilizations. They had taken planets with ease. To them, fear was something weaker species felt, not them. To the Xylar, the warning was not a threat. It was a challenge. At the center of the fleet, the largest warship moved forward with confidence. Its dark metal surface reflected distant stars. Its engines burned with cold blue light. Inside, on the main bridge, Commander Vrax stood tall. His sharp eyes were fixed on the glowing border ahead. It stretched across space like a thin line of energy, faint but clear. It did not move. It did not change. It simply existed, like a silent warning. Just stories, Vrax said calmly. His voice echoed across the quiet bridge. Around him, his officers stood at their stations. Some looked focused. Others looked uneasy. They had heard the stories. Every soldier in the galaxy had. Ships entering human space and vanishing without a trace. Entire fleets lost without a single shot fired. No battle reports. No distress calls. Just nothing. One officer, younger than the others, hesitated before speaking. "Commander, what if the warnings are real?" The room went silent. No one else dared to ask that question. Vrax slowly turned his head and looked at the officer. For a moment he said nothing. Then he laughed. A cold, confident laugh. "No species can hide that kind of power," he said. "If humans were truly that strong, they would not hide behind warnings." He stepped forward, his gaze still locked on the glowing line ahead. They would rule the galaxy. No one replied. But the unease did not disappear. Outside, the fleet continued to move. Closer, closer. The glowing border now filled every screen. Sensors scanned it again and again. No weapons detected. No defenses. Nothing. Just empty space. "Commander," another officer said, "we are approaching the boundary." Vrax did not hesitate. "Maintain course," he ordered. The engines grew louder. The ships moved faster. And then they crossed it. For one brief moment, everything changed. Every system on every ship flickered. Lights blinked. Screens went dark. Engines stuttered. Just for a second. Then everything came back. Normal. Stable. Working. The crew looked around in confusion. What was that? System glitch. No damage detected. One by one, the reports came in. All systems operational. No failures. No attacks. Nothing. Vrax smiled slightly. "You see," he said. "Nothing." Some of the crew nodded. Others were not so sure, because something felt wrong. Not broken. Not damaged. Just different. As if they had stepped into a place where they did not belong. But there was no turning back now. The fleet continued forward, deeper into human space. The glowing border slowly faded behind them, and the stars ahead grew darker, colder. Watching, far away beyond their reach, beyond their understanding, something moved. Deep inside human territory, hidden in the shadows of space, a signal had been triggered. Silent, invisible, but very real. Lights turned on in places no alien had ever seen. Systems activated, weapons powered up. Not in panic, not in fear, but with calm precision, as if this had happened many times before, as if it had always been expected. Back on the Xylar flagship, Commander Vrax stood with confidence. He believed he had just proven the stories wrong. He believed human space was empty, defenseless, a myth. But far away, in the darkness, something had just awakened, and it was watching them, waiting. The Xylar fleet moved deeper into human space. At first, everything seemed normal. The stars were still there. The ships were still in formation. All systems were stable. But the silence, it was different now. Too quiet. No signals. No traffic. No distant ships. Not even background noise. It felt like the entire region was empty, or worse, watching. On the bridge of the flagship, Commander Vrax stood with his hands behind his back. His confidence had not changed, but something in the air felt heavy. "Report," he said. "All systems normal," one officer replied. "Scanners show no life forms, no structures, no activity," said another. Vrax nodded. "Exactly as I expected." But before anyone could respond, every screen on the bridge suddenly turned black. At the same time, across every ship in the fleet, weapons systems froze, navigation locked, communications cut out. For a moment, the entire fleet went blind. "What is happening?" someone shouted. "Systems are not responding." "Commander, we have lost control." Then, just as suddenly, the screens came back on, but they were no longer showing normal data. Every display now showed the same thing, a single line of text, bright, clear, impossible to ignore. "You have entered human territory." The bridge fell silent. No one spoke. No one moved. The message stayed on the screen for a few seconds. Then it changed. "You were warned." A cold feeling spread across the crew. This was not a random signal. It was direct, intentional, watching them, speaking to them. Another line appeared. "Turn back now," one officer whispered. "They are talking to us." Rax stepped forward slowly. His eyes were fixed on the screen. For the first time, he did not smile, but he did not show fear either. "Open a channel," he ordered. "Commander, we cannot," the officer replied. "All communication systems are being controlled externally." That had never happened before. No system in the galaxy could take control like this, not without destroying the ship. And yet, everything was still working, just not under their control. Vrax clenched his jaw. "Then, we move forward." Some officers turned toward him in shock. "Commander, they are warning us." "And I do not take orders from ghosts," Vrax replied. The message on the screen changed again, as if it had heard him. "This is your final warning." A long pause followed. The words stayed there, heavy, unmoving, waiting. The entire fleet slowed down, not by command, but by hesitation. Even the pilots felt it, that something was very wrong. One ship at the edge of the formation began to turn slightly. Its captain was losing nerve. "Return to formation," Vrax shouted, but before the ship could respond, its screen went dark. Then, it vanished. No explosion, no sound, no signal. 1 second it was there. The next, it was gone. "Report," Vrax demanded. Ship is gone, Commander. No debris detected, no energy spike, nothing. The bridge filled with panic. That is impossible. The bridge filled with panic. That is impossible." Where did it go? The message appeared again. Calm, unchanged. "You were told to leave. Now the fear, were told to leave." Now the fear was real. Not rumors, not stories, reality. Another ship suddenly lost power. Its engines shut down. Lights faded. Then, it disappeared. Just like the first. Clean, silent, gone. The formation broke. Ships moved out of position. Pilots trying to escape something they could not see. "Hold formation." Rax roared. But his voice was no longer enough. Fear had taken control. "Commander, we must retreat," one officer said. "They are not attacking normally. We cannot fight this." Vrax stared at the screen, at the message, at the empty space where his ships had been. For the first time, doubt entered his mind. But pride was stronger. "Forward," he said slowly. The bridge went silent again. "Commander," someone whispered. "That is an order." The fleet hesitated. Then slowly, it moved forward again, deeper, into the darkness. The message disappeared. The screens returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. But now, everyone knew they were not alone. They were being watched, judged, measured, and something had decided they should not be there. Far away, hidden beyond sight, human ships moved like shadows, silent, precise, tracking every movement. No anger, no fear, just control. Back on the flagship, Commander Vrax stood still. His fleet was smaller now, his control weaker, but he refused to turn back. Because turning back would mean admitting he was wrong, and that was something he could not accept. Not yet. Not until it was too late. The Xyler fleet was no longer calm. Their perfect formation was breaking. Ships moved slightly out of line. Engines flared at random. Pilots whispered to each other, trying to stay focused. But fear had entered the fleet, and fear spreads fast. Commander Rax stood on the bridge, His eyes locked on the main screen. The empty space ahead now felt dangerous. Every shadow looked like a threat. "Stabilize the formation," he ordered. His voice was strong, but not as strong as before. "Yes, Commander," the officers replied, but their hands moved faster, less steady. Across the fleet, ships tried to regroup, weapons powered up, shields activated, scanning systems pushed to maximum, but they found nothing. No enemy ships, no signals, no movement, just empty space. And yet, ships were still disappearing. Without warning, a cruiser near the center of the fleet flickered. Its outline glitched, like a broken image. For a second it looked stretched. Then, it was gone. "No impact detected," an officer shouted. "No energy reading. How is this possible?" Vrax said nothing. His mind was racing. This was not normal war. There were no weapons, no explosions, no clear enemy. This was something else, something far beyond what he understood. "Full scan," he ordered. "Everything. I want answers." "Yes, Commander." The scanners pushed deeper, wider, searching every direction, every frequency, every layer of space. Then, "Commander, we are detecting something." Vrax stepped forward. "Show me." The screen shifted. At first there was nothing. Then slowly, shapes appeared, faint, almost invisible, like shadows appeared, faint, almost invisible, like shadows hiding between reality itself. "They are there," the officer whispered. Dozens of shapes surrounded the fleet, long, sharp, silent, human ships. But not like any ships the Xyler had ever seen. They did not reflect light properly. They did not move like normal objects. They seemed to phase in and out of existence, like they were not fully there. "They are tracking us," another officer said. Before Vrax could respond, one of the shadow ships moved, fast, too fast. It appeared next to a Xyler destroyer for less than a second, then disappeared. The Xyler ship froze, all systems shut down, lights off, engines dead. Then, it collapsed inward, not exploded, not broken apart, but crushed into nothing, as if space itself had closed around it. The crew on the flagship stared in horror. That is not a weapon," someone said. Vrax's face hardened. "No, it is control." The humans were not firing. They were controlling space itself. Another human ship appeared, this time closer, visible for just a moment, smooth, dark, silent, then gone again. A Xyler battleship fired its main cannon. A massive beam of energy shot into the darkness. It hit nothing. No impact. No target. Then the battleship vanished. Just like the others, the fleet began to panic. Ships turned in different directions. Some tried to escape. Others fired randomly into empty space. "Hold your positions," Vrax shouted. But no one was listening now. "This is not a battle," one officer cried. "We cannot fight them. They are everywhere. They are controlling everything." Another ship disappeared. Then another, faster now, one by one, like something was hunting them, choosing them, erasing them. The human ships moved like ghosts, appearing for a second, striking, vanishing again. No pattern, no warning, only fear. "Commander, we are being surrounded," an officer said quietly. Vrax looked at the screen. It was true. The shadows had closed in. There was no clear path forward, no clear path back. For the first time he realized the truth. They had not entered human space. They had been allowed to enter. And now, they were not being attacked. They were being removed, like intruders, like mistakes. The main screen flickered again. The message returned, cold, calm, unchanged. UIGN, the warning. The Nord, the warning. Vrax stared at the words. His pride was still there. But now, it was fighting against fear. "What do they want?" one officer whispered. No one answered, because deep down, they all knew. The message changed one final time. "This is not your space." Outside, the shadows moved closer, slow, controlled, certain. The Xyler fleet, once powerful and proud, was now trapped, and the real battle had not even begun. The Xyler fleet was breaking apart, not from damage, but from fear. Ships were no longer moving as one. Some tried to hold formation. Others drifted, unsure of where to go. A few turned their engines to full power, trying to escape the invisible threat around them. But there was no escape. Commander Vrax stood frozen on the bridge. For the first time in his life, he could not understand the battlefield. There were no clear enemies, no targets, No strategy, only loss, only silence. Status, he said, his voice lower now. Fleet strength down to 60%, an officer replied quickly. Shields are active, but they are not helping. Navigation systems are unstable. Something is interfering. Vrax clenched his fists. This was not supposed to happen. They were the Xylar Dominion. They were the hunters, not the hunted. Focus all scanners, he ordered. Find a path out. The crew worked fast, searching, calculating, hoping, but every direction showed the same result. Nothing. Or worse, shadows. They are still surrounding us, one officer said. Distance decreasing. They are closing in. Vrax looked at the main screen. The human ships were no longer just shadows. They were becoming clearer, still silent, still strange, but now visible enough to see their shape. Long, smooth, dark, like empty space. No lights, no markings, no signs of life. They did not look like ships built for war. They looked like something designed for control. One of them appeared directly ahead of the flagship. It did not attack. It did not move. It just stayed there, watching. Target that ship, Vrax ordered. Weapons locked. Energy built up. Fire. A powerful beam shot forward. It hit the human ship directly. For a moment, the light filled the screen. Then it faded. The human ship was still there. Not damaged. Not affected. It slowly faded out of sight, like it had never been there. The bridge went silent. That is impossible, someone whispered. Before anyone could react, every Xylar ship suddenly lost movement. Engines stopped. Weapons powered down. Shields flickered, then stabilized at a low level. What is happening now? Vrax demanded. We are being held, an officer shouted. Something is locking our position. The fleet had stopped, completely, floating in space, unable to move forward, unable to turn back, trapped. This is a trap, Vrax said quietly, but it was too late. It had always been a trap. The moment they crossed the border, everything had already been decided. Outside, the human ships began to appear, not just shadows now, dozens of them, surrounding the Xylar fleet from every direction. Perfect distance, perfect formation, like they had planned this long before the Xylar even arrived. No sudden moves, no chaos, only calm control. They are not attacking, one officer said. Then what are they doing? Another asked. Vrax stared at the screen, watching the human ships. They are ending this, he said. The main display flickered again. A new message appeared. Clear, simple, final. You were given message appeared. Clear, simple, final. You were given multiple warnings. The crew said nothing. No one could argue. No one could deny it. The message changed. You chose to ignore them. Outside, one Xylar ship suddenly powered down completely. Its systems went dark. No explosions. No damage. Just shut down. Then it disappeared. Gone. The humans were not destroying them. They were removing them. Clean, precise, controlled. Another ship vanished. Then another. Slowly. One by one. Like a countdown. Commander, we have to do something, an officer said. But Vrax did not answer. His mind was clear now. Too clear. He finally understood. This was never a battle. Humans were not fighting them. They were enforcing something. A rule. A boundary. And the Xylar had broken it. The message appeared again. Human space is protected. Outside, the human ships moved closer. Not fast. Not aggressive. Just enough to show control. To show power. To show certainty. Vrax took a deep breath. His pride was still there. But now, it felt small. We cannot win this, one officer said softly. No, Vrax replied. His eyes remained on the screen. We never could. Another Xylar ship vanished, silently, without a trace. The fleet that once filled space with power was now fading away. And the humans had still not fired a single shot. The Xylar fleet was almost gone. What once filled the darkness with power and pride was now only a few scattered ships frozen in place. No movement, no control, no hope. Commander Vrax stood on the bridge, staring at the empty spaces where his fleet used to be. Each missing ship felt like a weight pressing down on him. He had led them here. He had ignored the warning, and now they were paying the price. Remaining ships? He asked quietly. Less than 20%, an officer replied. His voice was shaking. Systems are still locked. We cannot move. We cannot jump. Vrax nodded slowly. He already knew. There was no escape. Outside, the human ships held their positions, silent, watching, waiting. They had not rushed. They had not shown anger. They had simply taken control. Like this outcome had always been certain. The main screen flickered again. Another message appeared. But this one was different. Not a warning. Not a statement. A question. Do you understand now? The bridge fell into silence. No one spoke. No one even moved. The question felt heavy, not just on the ship, but on Vax himself. He stepped forward slowly, his eyes fixed on the words. For the first time there was no pride in his voice. Yes, he said softly. Some of the crew looked at him in shock. Their commander, admitting it? We understand, Vax continued. His voice was calm, but filled with something new. Regret. We were wrong. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the screen changed again. You were given a choice. Vax closed his eyes briefly. Yes, he said, and we ignored it. Another pause. The human ships did not move. The silence stretched. Then a final message appeared. A final choice remained. The crew looked at each other, confused, afraid. Commander, what does that mean? One officer asked. Vax stared at the screen, thinking. For the first time since entering human space, he was not trying to win. He was trying to understand. What is the choice? He asked. The answer came immediately. Levine and never return. Hope, small but real. It spread across the bridge. We can leave, an officer said quickly. But our systems, as if responding to that thought, the ship trembled. Lights flickered, then stabilized. Commander, someone shouted. Navigation is coming back online. Engines are responding. Systems are unlocking. Systems are unlocking. Across the remaining fleet, the same thing was happening. Ships were waking up. Control was returning. The humans were giving them a chance. A real chance. The bridge filled with sudden energy. We can escape. We can get out. Commander, give the order. All eyes turned to Vax. He stood still, looking at the message, looking at the human ships outside. They had destroyed most of his fleet, without effort, without anger. And now, they were offering mercy, not because they had to, but because they chose to. That truth hit harder than any weapon. Commander, an officer said carefully. Vax took a deep breath, then he spoke. All remaining ships, prepare for retreat. Relief spread instantly. Engines powered up, coordinates locked. But before giving the final command, Vax looked at the screen one last time. We will leave, he said. His voice was clear, respectful, and we will not return. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the final message appeared. Tack now, Ellie dig. Outside, the human ship slowly moved aside, opening a path. A clear exit. No tricks, no traps, just a way out. Vax raised his hand. Jump. One by one, the remaining Xylar ships activated their engines. Light filled the darkness. And then, they were gone. The space became silent again. Empty, as if they had never been there. Far behind them, human space remained unchanged, protected, untouched, and watching. Commander Vax stood alone on the bridge of his ship as it moved away. His fleet was broken, his pride shattered, but he was alive. And now, he understood. Some borders were not meant to be crossed, and some warnings were not meant to be ignored. The stars looked different on the way back, not because they had changed, but because Commander Vax had. His ship moved in silence through open space, far away from the border they had crossed. The glowing line of human territory was now far behind them, slowly fading into the distance. No one spoke on the bridge, not out of fear this time, but out of understanding. The Xylar fleet that once filled the void with power was gone. Only a few ships remained. Quiet, damaged, humbled. Status, Vax said after a long silence. System stable, an officer replied. Jump drives operational. There was a pause before the next words. No pursuit detected. Of course there wasn't. The humans had never chased them. They did not need to. Vax gave a small nod. They made their point. No one argued. No one questioned it. Because everyone on that ship had seen the truth. They had not been defeated in battle. They had been judged and allowed to leave. That thought stayed heavy in the air. Days later, the surviving ships reached Xylar space. Their return did not feel like victory. There were no celebrations, no honor, only silence. Other ships came to meet them. Command stations opened channels. Leaders demanded answers. What happened to the fleet? Where are the others? Did humans attack? Vax stood before the High Council. For the first time in his long career, he did not stand with pride. He stood with honesty. We were warned, he said. The room went quiet. We entered human space without permission. Some of the leaders frowned. Some of the leaders frowned. Some looked confused. And one of them asked, "What did the humans do?" Vrax took a slow breath. "They enforced their border. That is all," another leader said. "You lost almost the entire fleet to a border defense?" Vrax looked directly at them. His voice was calm, but firm. "No," he said. "We lost the fleet because we did not listen." Silence filled the chamber. "They gave us multiple warnings," Vrax continued. "Clear, direct," continued. "Clear, direct. Enough chances to turn back. And you ignored them?" Someone asked. "Yes." The word felt heavy, but it was the truth. "What kind of weapons do they have?" another leader demanded. Vrax paused, searching for the right words. "They do not fight like we do," he said slowly. "They do not attack with force. They control space itself." The council members exchanged uneasy looks. "Ships did not explode," Vrax continued. "They simply disappeared. No trace, no damage, no escape, and they could have destroyed us all at any moment." The room grew colder. "Then why didn't they?" one leader asked quietly. Vrax's eyes lowered for a moment. Then he answered, "Because we finally listened." That answer stayed in the air, heavy, uncomfortable, real. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The story of what happened spread across the galaxy. At first, many did not believe it. It sounded impossible. An entire fleet, erased without battle, a species that could destroy but chose not to. But the survivors told the same story, every time, with the same fear, with the same respect. And slowly, the galaxy began to accept the truth. Trade routes were updated, maps were changed, warnings became stronger, clearer, impossible to ignore. Homeland territory, do not enter. No one questioned it anymore. No one tested it. Because now, it was not just a warning, it was a fact. Years later, Commander Vrax stood alone in the quiet observation room, looking out at the stars. He had changed. He no longer saw the galaxy as something to conquer. He saw it as something to respect. One of his officers entered the room. "Commander," he said softly, "a new exploration request has been submitted." Vrax did not turn. "Where?" The officer hesitated, then answered. "Near human space." A long silence followed. Then Vrax spoke. "Deny it." "Yes, Commander." The officer turned to leave, but before he did, he asked one final question. "Do you think anyone will ever challenge them again?" Vrax looked out into the darkness, toward the distant, unseen border, and he answered quietly, "Only once." The stars remained silent, unchanging, watching, and far beyond, deep inside their territory, humanity continued as it always had. Not seeking war, not seeking power, but ready, always ready. Because they knew something the rest of the galaxy had finally learned the hard way. Some lines are not meant to be crossed.